Hey there, Reese here from Creator Concepts. In this video, I wanted to run through the process that we use to help our clients who are typically experienced but non-technical founders validate their idea for their startup and the kind of tools we use to take them from that initial concept to validate the idea to then actually get the implementation completed. So how we actually go about designing and building and then testing and launching the app or the software. So what we first do is we'll typically sit down with the entrepreneur or the founder and find out exactly what they did previously in their startup or their business, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And then we'll also try and understand, what their motivation is for launching something new, especially if they've sold a business before and they're already quite successful. Why are they pushing on? Why are they trying to launch something new when they could just be, living up on a beach somewhere? And we want to get to that root motivation and figure out how we can kind of be the gateway for them to launch something new a second or third time round, and how we can make that journey easier for them. Because obviously when they're launching for the first time, there's a lot more challenges, there's a lot more learnings from going from 0 to 1. We want to make sure that we can take as much of that away from them as possible so that they can go from 50 to 100 because they've already figured out how to market a business, how to start a business, what's required from a legal point of view and all of that kind of thing. So we want to get to the root cause of why they want to do something again. And we also want to figure out what problem that they're solving, what the problem that they're solving is. Is this a problem that they've experienced themselves? Is it a problem that occurred repeatedly in their previous business? We're actually working with a very experienced founder at the moment who we're launching a marketplace product for them that ties two very, very specific parties together. And his platform that we're building kind of sits in the middle. And he basically came up with this idea through his previous business, which was in the financial services industry, repeatedly, and kind of knows that other people are experiencing within that sector. So it's very much a first party problem. So we try and figure out what that problem is. And then we also look at what they've done to validate it so far. So have they been speaking to people who fit their avatar? Have they been doing any kind of market research? Have they looked at what's already out there in terms of competition, products already on the market? So we kind of put together this big cloud of information. And that really helps us as a team understand what the journey and the direction might be for the product and for the startup. We go a lot further than just building a product. A lot of what we do is testing assumptions, challenging founders. So founders have a real ability to come up with so many different ideas that they want to execute on all at the same time. So a lot of what we do is actually just pushing back and saying, this is great, but let's leave this for 6 months later or a year later or phase 2 or 3. For now, let's figure out the exact problem you want to solve and the solution, what that solution looks like from an MVP, minimum viable product standpoint. So if we were to take 10 features that you came up with, what's the one feature that would help you test the market, help you validate and get signals? It's all about signals. When you're building a startup or an MVP, what you should be looking for is signals, not necessarily success immediately, but signals that you're going in the right direction, that people actually want this solution. They want to solve this problem that you're guessing or theorizing is actually a problem. So once we put together that kind of cloud of information, we then create a startup blueprint. And that startup blueprint involves a few things. It involves a little bit of market research that we do. It then involves putting together a design concept. So this is what I've got on screen at the moment. And we use Figma and we use a couple of other tools to put this together. But what we do is we want to get founders from that kind of idea in their head to something visual that they can see as quickly as possible. A lot of what a typical development agency would do is they go through that classic approach of putting together a proposal, having endless conversations and meetings. We don't want to do that. We want to have one meeting with a client, figure out what problem it is they're trying to solve, and then get them from that idea that they have into something visual that they can take to market straight away, email it out to people, show it to people, and capture feedback as quick as possible. So we put together some design concepts, really high level, but capturing essentially the core feature of what they want to build and what they want to do. So this is a really simple design for a mobile app. It is essentially a way for people who engage in combat sports, so boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, whatever it may be, to track their progress over time and track how they're improving, take notes in sessions, even video their sessions with timestamps, and they can share it with their coach to give commented feedback at different points in the video, and they can kind of visualize that training progress over time. Really great idea, kind of like a MyFitnessPal or a fitness tracker, but for combat sports specifically. So what we do is we design the actual pages individually. So we've got like a homepage here where you can see how many sessions you've done total, how many times you've trained this week in your chosen combat sport, and then you can log each session. And then you can also show or track what you actually worked on in that particular session. So whether it's footwork, head movement, combinations, power shot, speed, accuracy, etc. So once we've put this kind of design concept together, and I won't run through each page individually because you kind of get the idea. But what we want to do is just show to the founder, we get where you're coming from, we get the problem, this is the solution that we propose. And a lot of what we do is actually just providing the solution for them. You know, they come to us with a problem. That problem could be, I've been a martial artist for 10 years, or I've been a boxer for 5 years, and people are taking notes in their phone or writing things down and forgetting, or trying to remember and forgetting, what they worked in that session, what they need to improve on, what their coach said. And then, okay, great. Well, we've put this concept together for solving that problem, which is a tracking app. Very trendy at the moment, fitness tracking apps. This just ties into that massive market out there, big combat sport market as well. This is the solution. So we put this concept together, and this is all usually done in the very early stages of a project. From here, it's a case of, okay, how do we go from this initial concept to expanding it out into a full user interface design that might be 20, 30 pages long, where we map out every single feature, every single part of the app. And again, we want to keep features minimal. So 1 or 2 core features that solve that one problem, no more than 2 realistically for an MVP. If you go beyond that, you fall into the trap of trying to build something that is just feature rich, but solution poor, where you've just crammed all of your crazy ideas into it and it's not clear what problem you're trying to solve. People open up the app, and if there's 10 features, it's very hard for them to onboard themselves. And with apps, with software, unless you're going enterprise focused, where you're doing white glove onboarding and hand holding, you need people to onboard themselves and get set up very quickly. And that usually ties into the price point. You know, if it's a $30 a month subscription, or a $50 a month subscription, or a $60 B2C consumer app, $60 a year, for example, you can't be jumping on sales calls or providing loads of training. People need to onboard very quickly, and they can only do that if the features of your app are very clear from the offset. They jump straight in, they sign up, great, I can log a new session straight away. Very, very simple, no explaining needed. So that's what we do, is we pull back on any crazy ideas and push forward just one feature that will get them to that aha moment. So once we've done that, we obviously then get sign off from the client, and then from here we can package it up as a PDF document. And we've had some clients that use this to actually just raise money. So they'll take the PDF pack that we put together of the concept, they'll use it as part of their pitch, and then they'll go out and raise a little bit of money to fund the first version of the app. Ideally, the types of clients we work with, they've already got enough capital ready, so they won't need to necessarily use it to raise money, but they might use it in early conversations for potential customers or potential users to validate the concept. They can sit down, show them it, and say, would you use this? Have you ever used something like this before? And aggregate a bunch of feedback from their avatar, from their ideal customer. And that will help them guide the direction of the products, because they may come back at this stage, they've only spent a little bit of money with us, and they come back to us and go, I've spoken to 50 people and everyone said it wasn't useful. They already do this in this way. So let's pivot the idea entirely. And that's great before they've spent $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to actually build out the idea with us. They've validated it or not validated it, save themselves a bunch of money. So that's why we do this process, and we try and do this process with most founders. We do get the odd founder that comes in and says, I've already done this, or I just want to commit and go straight for it. Kind of goes a bit against our philosophy. So we always try and push the prototype, the kind of concepts forward first. So once they've validated it, once they've conducted customer interviews, we then jump into the development tool that we use. So our bread and butter is Bubble. Bubble's a no-code development tool. So we focus on working with technical founders. Sorry, we focus on working with non-technical founders. Big difference. And because of that, we want to make sure that once we get to the point of handover, those founders know where everything's stored and where all the data is managed, and they can jump in and view how many users they have. They can maybe make little tweaks and changes. And that's why we use Bubble, because it's great for us to build, and we can build very technical applications on it. There's not really any limitations around that, but it also means that we can train and onboard founders very easily, and they can almost become their own CTO to a certain extent when we get to handover. We'll still be there to support and develop new features and change things as time goes on, but we want to put them in a very empowered position to kind of make little tweaks and changes themselves and understand how it actually works. A lot of development agencies don't do that. They kind of own everything, hold everything to ransom, and you're kind of there stuck and struggling as the founder, not even knowing how your product actually works. So that's one of our differentiators, and that's what we try and talk about as well in kind of initial sales calls. So what we'll then do is we'll build out the application in Bubble. We use the new Bubble React Native builder, so the app compiles down to a React Native, so super fast, smooth. You get smooth animations, native features, transitions, that kind of thing. So push notifications, in-app purchases, all of that stuff. Works really great. We will then put everything together and we make it super easy. So let's say this founder we've built the app, and then we want to hand it over to them, and they want to change the title. They don't need to get back in contact with us to do it. They don't need to pay anything. They can jump straight into their app. They can click on whatever they want to change, and they can literally just make the change, save. That's it. And then they can deploy it, push it to live, and then that pushes it out to the app stores automatically. And it could be an over-the-air update, which just means it's available instantly to new users or existing users, or it could be a major update or an incremental update, which needs to go through the Apple and Google review process, which we support with, where Apple and Google review the changes. That's usually for like new features, and then it gets live once it's approved from there. So really, really simple end-to-end process where we're basically going from what's the initial concept? How do we articulate that problem that they're trying to solve into a solution with a single feature? What does that look like from a concept design point of view? Have you validated it? So take that concept we put together, go away and validate it, speak to your ideal customer profile, get feedback. Step 3 is then obviously building it. If for whatever reason that founder isn't keen on using Bubble, and it has happened before where people come to us and they just don't want to use Bubble for whatever reason, we can then look at other technical stacks as well. We can go sort of React Native or React if it's like a web app. There's a few different technical solutions we can use to actually build it. We prefer Bubble because it has managed infrastructure, managed security, managed hosting and uptime, all of that kind of stuff. So that's our bread and butter, but we do have other tech stacks that we can use. We get it all built. Usually a build takes about 6 to 12 weeks. And that's what you should be aiming for when you're using no-code solutions and you're trying to test an MVP, is like a 6 to 12 week build time. You don't want to be looking at 6 months to a year plus. You want to get to market quickly, test those assumptions, validate quickly with a real product, and then iterate and improve on the product from there. Once that's all done, we then reach the point of handing them the keys and launching. We can then support with things like marketing. How do you get your ideal customer through the door? How do you get them signed up? What's the messaging that we're going to be using? Is it going to be Facebook and Instagram ads? Is it going to be blog content? Is it going to be DM funnels to reach out to influencers and that kind of thing? So we provide some support around marketing. But what you really want to do is just follow that 3-step process. So ideate, come up with that solution to the problem, validate, show those concepts, test the market, and then MVP, which is the final stage, building something real, taking it to market, testing those assumptions for real, and then hopefully monetizing and building user base, your customer base from there. So that's how we do it. If you're interested in working with me and my team on this particular process for your own startup idea, or something that you want to test, we can just pick out parts of the process. So we don't even need to build the MVP. You might just come to us and say, I've got this idea, I want to validate it and test it. Great, we'll put together an interactive prototype in Figma for you. We'll design it all, put it all together. So you can click through and use it as a real kind of product, but without all the database, without all the sort of MVP side. We can do that as well. If that's something you're interested in, drop me a message at reese, REECE, at creatorconcepts.co.uk. That's CR to www.creatorconcepts.co.uk. Fill out the form on there, or jump on a call, go through your idea, go through your project, go through your goals. And we also do provide like consultation, startup consultation, go-to-market strategy, all of that kind of thing as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it kind of shone a little bit of light on our process and how we help founders. And obviously you can try it yourself, see how it works yourself, but we're here when you're ready to kind of get serious with it. All right, thanks for watching. Leave any comments, like, subscribe, and share as necessary, and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks.